What's up, guys? We got a special treat for you today, something that has been long overdue. We got a special guest here, Madness. You want to introduce yourself, brother, for those that might not know?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I have done the TSA cast before, which was kind of before booktubing. We have a SoundCloud still and stuff, and there's old episodes of some of the original forum cohort that, or at least the second Apocalypse forum cohort. There was a Three Cs forum back in the mid 2000s. Anyways, scattered people across time have joined the second Apocalypse forum, and we made TSA cast. I don't know. I want to say going back like 7 years now, 8 years now, or something. And then yeah, and then I had interviewed Erickson and Esselmont at some point when TSA cast kind of slowed down, and then booktubing has become what it is now, which I find very, very cool because I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there was reviewers before and stuff, but just the way that it's exploded in science fiction and fantasy now. You got guys like AP, Dr. Philip Chase and stuff. Zara. Yeah, there's loads of people. There's too many to keep track almost at this point, whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
That's
It's nuts.
yeah, and then the madness part of it is just so I obviously we're going to be talking about Baker and talking about the Aspect Emperor because you and I had not spoken since we haven't spoken since you finished. Yeah, we've sent some messages back and forth, but as you know, and so I guess we should say that it's going to be like open spoilers for all 7 books of
Yes.
Baker's Second Apocalypse. So
Yeah,
just fair warning to
absolutely.
everyone.
Much like we did on the last one, there will be
Yeah,
nonstop spoilers for the entire Aspect Emperor series, which then will only really lead to spoilers for Prince of Nothing as well.
yeah.
So just spoilers all around for the entire Second Apocalypse show. So be warned. This is for
This is your
people that don't
spoiler
know any
reminder.
better,
Yeah.
and the fans.
Yeah, turn it off now if you haven't finished the books. Yeah, yeah. You can come back to it later. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, just to kick us off, I got a couple things in mind here, Red. But what you can't do this. You can't even sum it up. But what do you think? How was your trip to Golgotha, sir?
Oh man. So I mean, because this conversation has been just so long overdue. We were supposed to do it like when I finished.
Yes.
At
Yeah.
this point now, I've reread the entire fucking thing. So it's like
Nice.
my like I'll try to kind of like my first run through because where I'm at now is like way different. You know what I mean? Like how I felt.
Oh, we can just range. I mean, people who get through the series realize very quickly that it calls you back first and foremost, right? And then when you have reread it, I mean, stuff you did on purpose, stuff that are happy accidents or coincidences or whatever. There's so many like layers. It's like there'll be 3 sentences, one sentence in one book, one sentence 2 books later, and then one sentence at the end and whatever. You realize that he's been working on a punchline for like 7 books. I mean, so many different ways of it, right? Like,
Yeah, there's some evil genius stuff going on there too. And who know? I mean, like you would probably know better than I the happy accident parts, but to somebody like me, he just seems like an evil genius. but
when we've talked, and I said this to AP when we spoke about being in this relationship with an author and stuff, he you can never quite tell with Baker whether or not he's like toying with you and like not giving you an answer because he wants you to get there on your own, or whether like he just is like really like I didn't mean to do that and it kind of just worked out, right? So, but then who knows? Is that a lie too, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know, man. He
yeah.
does seem to be a very cryptic guy. You know what I mean? It's like
Cryptic is putting it lightly.
if
Yeah.
all the fucking authors, it's just like he feels almost like a myth. You know what I mean? Like, damn.
I'm not sure. I didn't make it all up, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. Like one day I'm gonna wake
yeah.
up and then someone's gonna be like, "What do you mean, Baker? There's no R. Scott Baker." Like I'm like, "Oh my
You've never
fucking
heard
god!"
Of the Second Apocalypse? What do you mean? Like,
No, you
the
wrote
Second
those
Apocalypse
books.
doesn't exist?
Those
Yeah.
books don't exist, bro.
You just woke up. Did you have a really bad night or something?
Yeah,
you're gonna have to tell this story. It'll be like parable told around the campfire or something, right?
Yeah, that'd be one hell of a fucking nightmare. But yeah,
Okay.
I guess
It is a mad nightmare, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
Soul Real or
exactly.
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
The more you get into it, the darker and more disturbing it certainly gets. You know, my first go through, like I have to admit, like when I first jumped into Aspect Emperor, I was kind of thrown off a little bit, not massively, but a little bit with Judging Eye. And even on a
Mhm.
reread, I would still, and it's crazy because I don't think this is a popular like ranking, but I kind of put it at the bottom. Most
Yeah.
people love that fucking book. Um, and
I think
by
it goes
saying
both
I put it on the
ways.
bottom, that like a bottom Baker book is still a fucking 5-star book.
Yeah.
Um,
I think with Judging Eye specifically, so there's two things that happen there. He's really found his stride and he's gotten to start Aspect Emperor, right? As that's like after Thousandfold Dock comes out and stuff. And he always framed it as Prince of Nothing kind of being like the Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings itself or something. And so there's a couple points I wanted to make there just for the audience and for you as well, whatever. But so the Judging Eye is a divisive one of the series because Darkness that comes before has to do so much heavy lifting for everything, right?
yeah,
But by the time he gets to the start of Aspect Emperor, like essentially the play, like the sandbox is like there, like he has all the pieces kind of that he needs to then tell this second story. Like, you know, Prince of Nothing really is it's just the setup. Really, like, I mean, it's an amazing trilogy. I mean, it would have been a great trilogy just as a standalone. Which, funny enough, when I first found the books in 2005 or six, I believe, it was right before Thousandfold Thought came out. But I read Darkness, I read Warrior Prophet, and then Thousandfold Thought comes out. I read that. I had not been a part of like online book fandoms or anything. I'd never joined a forum before and stuff, right? So finding the original forum, which was in the acknowledgments, because I actually, when I was 17, I famously didn't read the acknowledgments of books, which is just retarded. Excuse me. But yeah. On my own part, I'm calling myself that. I'm sorry for the word use, guys. But yeah, so so I read The Prince of Nothing twice, thinking like this guy's a fucking mad asshole. Like that would be the book. And it ends at like a Camion kind of, you know, the wizard
yeah.
limps on or whatever, right? Like, and so it took me, honestly, I read it twice, back to back, like all three books. And it took me, I don't know, probably like another couple months after that, like almost a whole year to kind of figure out that there was a forum and stuff and like that there was other people talking about these books. And then of course you figure out that there's going to be another series and there's a 20-year gap and stuff, right? So I mean, living that process was just insane, going through that. And then the insanity gets, well, more and more mad or more madness or whatever, right? But yeah. Anyway, so you get to Judging Eye, and I feel like Judging Eye doesn't have to do, it can be, you know, if you look at Prince of Nothing as one book, and you look at The Aspect Emperor as one book, it's very much like a shorter intro to what becomes, you know, the White Lick Warrior and the Great Ordeal, the Underworld
Right.
Consul. And then also, I think, again, whether I think people who, some readers really, really like the density of Prince of Nothing, and especially Darkness. Like Darkness is one of my all-time favorite books, just in and of itself.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, it's a little rough, and then Warrior Prophet, whatever, it goes on and on. But with Judging Eye, I think that's why it's so divisive, is because either people like you and I perhaps like miss that density right off the hop, right? Like it just is, it's all, and his writing's gotten better and more like mature at that point, or too. So he can just kind of streamline it, right? Like I
Yeah.
mean,
It is
yeah, that's
fast.
the
It's like it's a
yeah.
fast like Baker book for sure.
Mm-hmm. Especially coming off like Warrior Prophet and Thousandfold Thought and the glossary and stuff, right?
Hmm.
So, anyways, it doesn't really matter like which of your experiences you refer to there or whatever. When you're coming into the Judging Eye, like what did you think about some of like the immediate, like, so I don't know if it's immediate necessarily, but like we find out that all the God talk from Prince of Nothing, because as you go through Prince of Nothing, he uh he uses the Dunyan as this idea of like, we think of ourselves as like, I'm sure there are many religious people who read these books and stuff, whatever, but, and I'm not sure where I stand on anything, but the idea of in the modern world, we kind of like think Kellis is right, right? Like
Right.
it's cause and effect, blah, blah. And then you get to Aspect Emperor and it's all like, oh, all those gods that were seated in there, they're fucking real. Like,
Yes.
they're right. Like they're messing with you, whatever. And it's just that one also jars people too, who thought that Prince of Nothing was like, you know, just a bunch of deluded people, and then the Dunyan are the ones who only like see, you know, how you get trapped in religious patterns or social patterns and stuff,
Right.
right? And then you have to reacclimatize yourself to the fact of like no, the gods are real. You know, they want things from us or don't want things from us, right? They want us to strive against them. They want us to strive for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what did you think about all that? Like when you kept
So
coming in
that's a,
hot
yeah,
for
that's
Judge
very
Night, yeah.
super interesting. I honestly, it's funny because like the gods thing really, I mean, I started picking up on it, but it didn't really ram home until White Luck Warrior. White Luck Warrior
Mhm.
was like, all right. I
Yeah.
can't, I mean, I feel like he's told me, but now it's like it's there. The gods are fucking real. They're not
Yeah.
just like
Well,
something
even
people are fucking.
getting introduced to Satma, right? You wonder if
Yes.
like Satma Nanafari, you wonder if she's like just has. And I mean, this might even be the mechanism in Baker World. I have no idea in the Second Apocalypse, but yeah, again, coming from where we are reading anachronistically, it's almost like, okay, well, you're having seizures and seeing something, right? When the goddess like comes to her that first time and she's like, you know, you're oh, it's supposed to be given freely. Like when like, I love that scene. So anyway, she's sitting there and she's taking coins from people, like begging or whatever. But then she notices that the coins start getting bigger, and they realize that they're trying to buy Yatwer's favor or whatever through her. And then she has a seizure, and then Yatwer tells her that the White Luck Warrior is coming, right? You know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, the Narinder.
yeah. Well, that's another when we go through here. We'll try and keep it piece
Yeah,
by
yeah,
piece, so
yeah.
we don't lose focus on the end
Yeah,
here.
but that's
Whatever.
the thing, right? I mean, like on and honestly, like in Prince of Nothing, you hear all about like the gods and stuff, and even in glossary or whatever, but
Yeah.
there's no reason for you to think that they're tangible, actually. Like it could be very much just like,
Mhm.
you know, the god of gods, because it's like, you know, there's all kinds of horrible shit going on in this dude's name too, but you never fucking see or hear from him. It's just someone's
Mhm.
telling you that, you know, oh
Well,
yeah,
it's
there's,
just
and
like
it feels a very
Gilgal
much,
with Nate.
I guess
Oh, go on.
depending on your own, like you said, like where you're at in your own like spirituality, you know what I mean? Like you might just be like, oh fuck yeah, these none of this shit's real. It's just like our own
Right.
world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you
No,
think
that's I think that's the vehicle that he uses with the Dunyan through Prince of Nothing, right? Is
right,
that we like I'm sure many of us, again, spirituality aside, probably are pretty rational actors and stuff, right? Like we kind of, logic, reason, these things kind of appeal to the modern sensibility, let's call it, or something,
sure.
right? So, and again, I we'll have to talk as we get closer to the end of Aspect Emperor here, or whatever. But I really I don't know, honestly, like what he was going for, like whether he's using the Dunyan to kind of trick us, and then we like when we get into the Aspect Emperor, God's just being one aspect of it, but we realized in retrospect, and as you said, you reread as well already, that so no, those moments of like Agagaki or something, or I'm ruining this, but the god of
Yeah,
disease,
a
yeah,
jokely or something.
yeah, a Jokely, like, well, even a Jokely, like when we talk about getting to the end there, right? Like, yeah.
Jesus.
Um, let's not
That's
rush
where I
that. Okay,
kind of was
so
like the first read through when I got to the end, I was like, God damn it, I wish I would have paid more attention to the metaphysics.
well, that's why the reread's so important. Yeah, but
Yeah,
so I think that's he's trying to make that aspect, or sorry, yeah, just the Aspect Emperor is one book, but the start of the Judging Eye and that kind of realization, which again is what throws. I guess it's almost like a litmus test for where you're at with that, right? Like people who like automatically assume the gods were real, then they're just like, oh no, this is just more the same, right? People who assumed that the gods were just delusion in
yeah,
the name
right.
of whatever, right? Yeah. Okay, so then we got Esmonet and the kids.
Oh wow, yeah. So that was I think my first read of Judging Eye, Kel Momus is so goddamn creepy and is like he's a psycho, and then you add like all the mommy shit. Like there was something very jarring about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
unsettling, and I guess it was hard for me to digest. I'm not saying I hated it, but it was like, goddamn, I'm actually like repulsed by this fucking little kid, and I have a bunch of little kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
but they
it
don't
kind
they
of
don't go running around like murdering whole religious sects into their sleep and stuff, right?
oh
Just
my
like yeah.
god. But yeah, Kel Momus was kind of a hard character for me to like kind of get behind, I guess. And it's crazy because I'm like somebody who champions Confis.
Mm-hmm.
but Kelmo, I think a lot of it maybe it just had to do with his age, and it freaked me the fuck
Mm-hmm.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like what, 7 or something at the start
Yeah.
of Aspect.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I think I do really like being hit with this deal where we're seeing Esmenet, and she is at the tip top. She is the fuck
yeah.
at the tip of the iceberg or the spear or whatever. You know, she is as renowned as she will ever be, and she's fucking miserable.
Hmm.
Like she's stressed
Yeah,
out from just her position. She knows that people don't like, some do like see her in a good light. All these others don't. There's poets writing fucking
yeah.
stories about her that have hidden meanings. All her children are incapable of love, and her husband's never home because he's out trying to fucking save the world. So it's just like
Right, right.
that one decision she made, 20 years ago has given her everything except for like the thing she really wants. It's
Yeah.
weird. It's a like I don't, and I love that though, because I'm not exactly was a like Esmond hater, but I wasn't as on board with her character as most people are by Prince of Nothing. Like people love that character. Where I was, man, I don't know if it's just because I was like feeling for my boy Akamian, like where I was just like, yeah, fuck Esmond.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Was like, wait, so when you find out she's not having a good time, you're like, yep, should have made the right decision. Like, no, but that's so stupid of me, but whatever, like
I get what you're
that's kind of
saying.
where I
Yeah.
was at, I think, and that's cool though, because Baker has created, and that's why people always ask me, like, why do you love it so much? I'm like, well, because it's the one story that became so real.
Hmm.
Became so real. That's the thing, is like starting the judging eye, like me maybe having these emotions about Esmond. It's like, dude, I literally like thought about this character like she was a real person,
Hmm.
like, and I'm
Hmm.
keeping judgment on her or whatever, it's just like, it's nuts. Like she's not a fucking character. She's this woman that pissed me off because she did my boy
Right.
dirty, whatever,
Right.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's pretty crazy, but
You could see.
I
Go
did
on.
really like getting hit with Esmenet and that like struggle. It's weird because, well, because like what do you do with a character who's at the top of the fucking, top of the food chain? You know what I mean? That like,
Mhm.
in this kind of struggle seemed like legit, like genuine, something that could really be going down. It made sense, and that was
Mhm.
good. You know what I mean? Like I just really, I guess that did, like, that's where I started really digging that character.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And
And I
then
loved,
as you.
honestly, I loved all the Anasa Rimber kit. Besides Kel Momus, I really, really enjoyed getting hit with each of the Anasa Rimber
Yeah.
children. Like it was just like, oh, this guy's super intriguing, compelling. Like, what the fuck? Because it's
Mhm.
a bunch of
Mhm.
like little Kellises running around, all a little bit bent, a little bit different. And you're like, oh my God.
Not to derail us because I have another thought here or whatever, but it almost makes you wonder who Mathenet's mom is, right? Like who the light
Yeah,
found that wasn't Esmenet, right? Like
that's
because what, that's two world-born women that could handle, and Mathenet is the only one who actually like showed balance or whatever he says in a White Lake Warrior, right? Like
right.
yeah.
Dang, that's
No,
true.
we'll get there. You brought up a Camion. So
Yes.
judge, yes, it came in his tower and
Oh my
Yamara and
God.
stuff.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you right now. I was so mad at my dude. I was so mad at him because, like, you got to understand, and this is like so Baker. I realized now, like,
Hmm.
you're reading a fantasy story. So you kind of like do these like fantasy, like fucking assumptions. You're like, oh, this was going to happen. And this is because it's so very fantasy story. But fucking Baker doesn't write a normal fantasy story. So
No.
instead, like, I'm thinking like, a commion's been doing work, like before I'm like, he's been probably
Well,
getting fucking all kinds of fucking, people under, behind him. And he's got a whole nother army that he's going to confront fucking Kellis with. No,
right, right.
he's sleeping in a fucking tower, taking a diary of his fucking dreams for 20 goddamn years.
Well, it's funny too because in Darkness, when we're introduced to Akamian, he talks about Mandate who have done that and just gone crazy, right? And he ends up going in. I mean, he is the old wizard now, right?
I
Like
do kind of
he's a
like
very different Akamian.
the like some of that fucking imagery that we start getting hit with though, like early, and like with a commune and like the in that tower, and then like just being kind of in a place where there's lots of shrank and shit, and like having to fucking
Mm-hmm.
scorch the earth and shit. You're like, ooh,
Oh, I
when
love it.
he gets like, because that's the thing, especially in Prince of Nothing. There's a lot of a commune talking about how he could fuck you up, but you don't really see it. But when you do, it's awesome. So it was really cool. Like right out the gate, he's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fucking living in this tower, shrank everywhere, had to fucking blow the place up.
Yeah, and then he gets a momentary happiness, and then Mamara comes.
Oh God, right? Yeah, I know. That
Yeah,
is funny. Like just maybe right when he could maybe
yeah.
let go or whatever. You don't even know. No, they
I don't
pulled me
think he was
back
gonna
in.
let go, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
Funny
like I
that
don't.
you,
That's a bad word,
yeah.
but I don't know what else to say. But yeah, I mean, because I don't like we see that he's so very fucking obsessed, and
Hmm.
probably I mean the journey he's going on, my Mara, all this shit just really kicks it into high gear. And that's one of the sad things about a Commun's character. I felt like throughout the deal is just like he really shows you that obsession. Like
Hmm.
like a Commune based like a man that's so like he's a smart dude and he can use
Hmm.
logic. You know what I mean? He's not a Dunyan, but he is definitely a logical man. And you see like him be so illogical all the like, and it's always has to do with Kellis. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
it kills me too about that. And well, that's the whole cuckold part, right? Like feeling
yes.
like he's owed something, whatever. But Mamara comes and she's like, "You're too late. Like he's already started the ordeal. Like they're already going." And it came in. I know it upsets people. He's still in his head trying to make an argument with Nair from the tent and Thousandfold Thought and being like, "Is he this or is he like the savior?" Like, I don't know why Kamian seems to think he needs to know, but like he just spends the next 4 books like, no, we got to find the truth of him. We can't decide whether he's good or bad or whatever, right? Like,
Oh, it's so crazy.
yeah.
I think it might be in the judging eye where there's that part where he starts, yeah, like where he's like thinking about how he's gonna get all the fucking skin eaters killed on the
Mm-hmm.
word of a madman, Nayer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he's like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm at, wagering all these lives on the word of a fucking insane fucking barbarian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the best ever written for sure.
It's so good. That shit's
Uh,
really good.
I want to keep us clipping along here, whatever, but
I know, I know.
it's fine. We do this every time. It's okay.
I
We can
know.
even make it a two-parter if you don't have
Yeah,
time, or whatever.
absolutely.
But
If
let's
that's
let's
what
just let's just
happens,
keep going.
I'm super
Yeah.
down, brother. We'll just wing it.
Okay. So then we get to Marrow or whatever, right? The scalper town before
Yes,
we get
yes, yeah, yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And you already brought up the skin eaters, but Akamian gets to the bar, and what the fuck is that mark over there, right? Like,
Oh,
and then of
dude.
course the bartender sends him over to the exact table he doesn't want to go to, and
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
he's like,
Oh,
fuck. Like,
I'll tell you this. This is one of those where the second time around it hit harder.
oh
I
yeah.
I loved that scene, that tavern scene, like fucking so much more the second time. Like I think the first time I was just so like chomping at the bit to devour the story, to find out what the fuck was
Mm-hmm.
going on. That second time around, you don't have that. So you're just enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, to see Sarl again was like, oh god damn it.
Yeah,
Yes.
for the new, like the first time, and then well, even
Yeah.
just before we leave that scene, so you've got Cleric and the Cowl, and I don't think even on the second reread, I'm not sure where however many rereads, it doesn't matter, but I'm not sure that there ever is. Maybe some readers out there can tell us differently or something, but I really don't think there's a way to guess that that's a non-man when he's got his cowl up and stuff, right?
No,
Like
I
I
mean,
think
I
that,
never did. I've read it twice. So I didn't, I mean, I
yeah.
knew who it was the second time around because I've read this book, but through
Mm-hmm.
that meeting, I wouldn't say it's enough to really like,
No, you could almost be like, it's a Scarlet Spire or something, or like who knows? It's a defected, or like a defected sorcerer from some one of the schools or something, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and then
absolutely.
obviously, well, we find out the next day when he meets Campus and stuff, and like because and
Oh,
it all comes down to
campus.
like, oh man, but Sarl. No, I just remember at that table, like Sarl's fucking the journey that Sarl's about to go on when he contradicts the captain, and the captain's like, no, we can go to Soglish. Like, we can get there. Like, so I was like, what? Like the coppers boys. And like Coaster's like, no, we can do it. Like,
Yeah, the
yeah, I mean,
coffer.
he doesn't say as much, but yeah, the
Oh
coppers. It's like
god damn,
a joke, and then yeah.
so
Okay,
good.
so skin eaters are leaving. The ordeal is going through what, Galioth, and like going through the
Yeah, they
gap.
go up
The,
into
yeah,
Sir
yeah,
Car or Sir. Well, I guess that's kind of where they start, right? In Sir Carpus or
yeah,
whatever. They're doing their
yeah,
little siege of Sir Carpus, and we
yeah.
get hit
And
with
then
Sorwin.
yes, well, I wanted to ask you about this too because Baker, I don't know. There's interviews out there, and I can find links for people and stuff, whatever. But essentially, the way Baker explained it in one of the interviews before Judge and I came out was that Sorwheel was his Bakerian take on the boy who would become king or whatever. But in his version, obviously, it's a false kingship or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because he's basically like Zasranga and his friends, like the what do they call themselves? The boys who are like
the
the
Zions.
scions. Yeah. They all know that they're only there to like make sure that they're, in one case like Zasranga, that the outside armies around the Three Seas won't like attack, whatever. Even though apparently the Empire must fall. Who knows, whatever. But that's a different story. And then Sorwheel, like they have to have Sarkarpus and they have to have the Chora horde, so they can later on whatever. Yeah, but I assume that Gol Godaroth has the most Chora in the world.
Yeah,
that's an assumption that But anyways, during the first apocalypse, Sarkarpus seems to be the place where they come across, and then the Three Seas has them like littered around, like Acamian says in Darkness about Gesruni, right? Like having a Chora at all is like you could sell for a kingdom or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Right. It's that's one thing. I think somebody, I didn't really think about it, but I remember somebody in my Discord was like mentioning something about, I call him Kore, but like
whatever.
Yeah.
That's half of the fun. That's the half.
Yeah, I know, right? Everyone's got a different fucking name or word for everything. It's so great. But kind of like how in Prince of Nothing, it's pretty like out there that these things are pretty rare. The trinkets, the Kore, whatever you want to call them. And then we get to Aspect Emperor, and there seems to just be a very abundance of them. There, you have a Kore fucking horde. You know what I mean? Like, so they definitely pop out of the goddamn woodwork. But we're also dealing with a world that's I was like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe because he would say like, maybe they're not so rare, and I was like, well, it's a really old world. Who knows like how long some of those were just, not in circulation, let's just say, you know what I mean? They were kind of lost to the fucking world.
I don't know. That's a lore question I actually don't know off the top of my head, but I'm fairly sure that I suppose the non-men must have had some, right? Because the Aporetic sorcery that made the Chora or whatever, right? They made them because they defected to the Encore or something, right? And this is before like the non-men had their Inku Kunori war and stuff, right?
Okay.
But that's when Selmomas, like Kelmomas' namesake, and you have that Stelian darkness. When you read the stories about the first ordeal, they obviously have Kore, right? They are Chora, right. Whatever, right? So I don't know where. That's a lore question I actually don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, and that's the thing is some stuff just is like not like and that's a funny thing is like a lot of times I have to tell some like newer readers that hit me up on Discord. I'd be like, well, not everything gonna be explained.
Right. Yeah.
You're gonna have to leave some. You're just gonna have to take your hands off of some of this shit and just let it be because Baker ain't giving you 100% of the fucking shit.
Of course not.
No.
Okay, so we've got our cast kind of. We've got we got Satma, we got I don't know if Faniel's kind of appeared yet, but anyways, so the scalpers go their way around the long side or whatever, and then the ordeal goes on its path, and then there's the Empire with Esmenet. And she's got the defectors and the Orthodox and stuff, and the Orthodox is kind of now a collection of people that wouldn't necessarily have interacted or worked with each other before, the lodestone or Leviathan that is Kellis, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, we'll start with the ordeal and work our way around. I can already see how this is going to go because we're moving along at quite a slow clip here, which is good.
Yeah. We're not getting anywhere, but that's
it's okay.
It's the slog of slogs.
Yes. Don't rush towards Gol Godaroth, all right? Just don't rush.
Once you find out what's really there, you're like, well, we could have took our time.
Go with the ordeal though. So we leave Sarkarpus.
Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of like where we're getting like, if I'm remembering correctly, this is kind of like where we begin to get like the grooming so to speak of Sorwheel from Kellis, as well as the Prince Imperials. Like they're kind of like bringing him into the fold, but also putting him in his place. And then through that, we see that he gets the fucking like schoolman and a slave, right? Like he gets is it Escalese, I think is his mandate schoolman that he's kind of like
Yeah.
given
So
so
Escalese
so
is
he
the
can
man
kind
made
of
school.
learn. I
Yeah.
think it's so he can learn Shaic or whatever, because they're not. That's one thing that because they don't really understand each other necessarily a whole like real well because of the different
No.
languages.
Well, they and then also oh, and it's gonna hurt my heart because he's one of my favorite characters. But so
Prosperian.
yeah, yeah, okay. But then also Zos Ranga's mentor. I
Okay.
forget his.
God damn it.
It's okay. Don't even
Yeah.
try and chase it. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
tip of
so
tongue.
many
But
names.
you
So many
know,
names.
so he has Escalese translating for him, and then he has Zos Ranga's like manservant or whatever, right? But he's like very clearly a high Zueme advisor or whatever that's there to like watch the son of Zuem or whatever, right?
Right.
And then you have Moangus and Cayutus, and then you have the instruction that the first thing is that Sorwell needs to learn to communicate with everyone, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really dug that. That's one thing, like even in my like it gets kind of like swept under the rug a lot when you get a big fucking fantasy world and just everybody speaks the same language. But like, yeah, not to say that there's some people do put the different languages in there, but there's a lot out there. It's just like everybody knows how to talk to each other.
Well, Baker often claims that he wasn't, or he like Tolkien is, he was actually a linguistics professor and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But Baker in The Prince of Nothing, it gets less so, I think, in The Aspect Emperor, but in The Prince of Nothing, at least, he used to do kind of like little excerpts of people hearing things in a different language and we would read whatever. So there is a little bit of phonetic structure to that.
Yeah.
But Baker didn't, he claims anyways, he didn't work too hard on that part. It was more just like getting across that, like, oh, of course, they're not going to be able to talk to each other yet or whatever, right?
Right. Well, I'll say even him just doing that little bit is a lot because I mean it's much better than just like not putting anything in there. I'll tell you.
Well, I don't want to skip this part either, but just to get a little ahead of ourselves, River. That's what it's like. Have you ever watched oh my goodness, 13 Assassins or the
13th Warrior?
13 Warrior, yeah.
Yes, dude, where he's sitting around
Antonio Banderas, yeah, and then he starts to like, and
that's the best way. That still to me, in my opinion, to this day, one of the best ways to portray that on film. Like it was so good. Like you knew what was going on. You're only catching tiny little bits, but it's not like he's explaining what he's doing, but you know exactly what he's doing, and it fucking worked so good. I love that movie.
But so that moment when he speaks up and all the fucking Norsemen or whatever making fun of whatever, the same kind of moment happens with Sorwheel and Perspiring, right? When he like does the spit face from the dirt, and then finally Sorwheel knows enough to be like, "What did you do? Like, what did you do?"
Yeah. That's like, and that just fucking goes nuts, really, for our boy Sorwheel, right? Like,
we're not gonna jump ahead that far. Okay, and then obviously, I think really what's going to happen here is we'll probably just make it through Judge and I or something, but because I'm not even close to done just this. And
hey, we have to. We'll do whatever we got to do, brother.
We'll make it a 4-part series or something. So yeah, with the scalpers, we got the Skinners, and the snowstorm comes, and they meet a returning Thunieri scalpers, group or whatever, and they're like, no, like you're not getting there, whatever, blah blah, and then. Everyone's kind of like giving up, and then Cleric is like, "I know a way."
Yeah.
Camion knows exactly what he's talking about. He's like, "Fuck."
Yeah. Okay. So that exact spot in the story is where like I started getting like this massive Tolkien vibe. And I was like, man, this reminds me a lot of fucking Lord of the Rings. I was like, this is almost like the setup to Moria. And then
it's almost not an exact homage, but it's clearly like going the same way, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And like that's and I put that in my like reviews too. It's like I never felt like it was like a ripoff or it
was a love letter. It was a love letter. It was a love letter to
exactly.
Moria.
And I love that kind of writing. Like it was done.
I'm just gonna tell you, like the movie version of that through Moria or whatever is awesome. But like me and another couple of readers have talked about this before. Killua just ends up being, I think, 2 full chapters to kind of like climax, because he needs to have some sort of climax in the first book, or else no one gets anywhere, right? It's just
Right,
like,
right, right. Yeah,
yeah.
without the events that happen in Solages, like you
Okay,
don't
but
have them.
in Lord of the Rings, it's like literally like a page and a half or something, or 2 pages where they get like where the real shit kicks off in Moria or whatever, like in the Balrog and stuff. In Prince of Dudley or in Aspect Emperor, it's like 2 insane chapters
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
and when you have that moment like you talk about, you're like, oh, this is like, they're never, you're gonna go through the dwarf mountain or whatever, and then you realize, wait, these are non-men mountains. Like this is a dead mansion. Like,
Which
yeah.
is really fucking cool because I feel after Prince of Nothing, one of the the Dunyan and the non-men, and really even the Inkoroi are
Mm.
very mysterious at this still. You know what I mean? Like you're still like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? And that's one thing I do love that Baker like is in the Judging Eye was it was like, oh, we're getting non-men material, like we're
Mm.
fucking going there. Not only now do we have a
Mm-hmm.
character, we're going into their fucking hollowed out mountains. Like, oh shit. Like,
Right. And if you read the glossary too of Thousand Fold Thought, there are a number of hints in there that I believe it's Kilogis is in there somewhere or whatever, if I recall correctly. But essentially, like, it's a dead non-man mansion. Like we've already met Cleric, right? So we already have a non-man in the story or whatever. But you're kind of under the assumption that you're just again going. Well, I mean, there is literally they come to their like inner mausoleum or whatever, right? Like where they can't go past, and like Acamian does the bar of light, and
yeah.
Captain comes up to him and he's like, if I wanted people to know we were in a fucking graveyard, I would have told you so, like, right? Like, it's the first time that Acamian puts on the bar of light, like inside the structure to see where they're like why they're stuck and stuff. And
Yeah,
then they're
that's
trusting, like, well, he says to Mamara too. It's like, I don't know how much we can trust this guy's memory, like Cleric's memory,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We don't know if he actually knows the way through here, right? Like, and Acamia can remember, like, okay, like if we're in the mausoleum, then we're in, the middle of the mansion, and Cleric might actually know the way, but like now that we have to go like side road, it's like Gandalf and Frodo in the movies sitting there, and Gandalf like takes his pipe out to like think whatever, but instead of Gandalf, like, oh, I smell it, this way's fresh air or whatever, right? But in Judging Eye, you're waiting on a fucking non-man to decide if he like remembers where he is in the middle of a mansion where you already found dead scalpers, and like the graffiti at the start of the like the gates, whatever, is like, see, I told you the long picks died here or whatever, and then I told you these guys fucking died here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like
Because they
the
find that one
scalper
dude.
groups go missing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone eventually tries the dead halls, right? But like, I guess only one group has made it through. Like,
Yeah.
really, like, yeah. Well, we might as well keep going with that. I mean, there is stuff with the ordeal, but let's go through this. So we get past the mausoleum, and this is when they find the heart in the eye, or the eye in the heart, right?
Yeah. And that's a
Yeah, yeah.
fucking
That's a
trippy.
moment where shit, like, well, you know about Topoi, right? If you were paying attention through Prince of
Yeah, like
Nothing.
Mengetta, right? Like,
Yes, yeah. But
yeah,
I
like
mean, that's where the no god died. So that's broken because of his passing, whatever, right?
right.
And as we find out in Kill All Jess, that's literally almost like a Dante's descent into hell,
That's a
because of the
great way
non-men.
of actually a great way of describing that. Like the fucking Dante's fucking
Yeah, yeah.
Inferno.
But so you go down, and then you like Mamara realizes eventually with the Judging Eye or whatever, but you get to a point where you realize that Kilogis is a topoid because there were like generations and generations of Mwama, like the humans that they bred down to be servants or whatever, just caged like 10,000 years without sun, mining whatever the fucking mining Nimmo or whatever, the non-men metal or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't want to jump ahead there too, but I want to work past this because the heart and the eye is just, I have a question about that, or the eye and the heart. But it's just so funny when you get to Coaster later, and he's like, and I don't know what this means either, so we'll talk about that later as well. But like, this isn't hell. I would remember or whatever, right?
Yeah, well,
Like,
that started kind of fucking with me a little bit. Like I
yeah,
was like, wait a minute, because like you kind of there is some vibes being put out there about that with that, well, with many people, but with Lord Casoda, right? Like fucking there's something off about him. You can just know it. And when he says that line, I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean you'd remember? Like, are you fucking a Sifrang or like you know, like, are you from hell? You know,
Yeah, well, yeah.
some of the
I
shit
mean, I
that
don't.
Sorrow says doesn't really make you feel any more comfortable about the captain. You know what I mean?
Sometimes the dead bounce or whatever. I think he says
Yeah,
later
you're
or
like,
something. Yeah.
fuck, all right, dude. There is some horrible shit going on with this fucking
Mm.
dude. And it's
Okay.
like, what
So
an
we.
inopportune time to be fucking kind of feeling that, you know, right? You're like, oh,
Oh, yeah. That just makes my day, right? It wasn't
yeah,
hard enough already.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you move past, and we get to. I believe it's. I'm not sure if it's before or after, but it doesn't really matter. You get to the Kujaran shrine. There's like some shrine to the ancient king of the Norman, Kujar Sonoy. Cleric like talks to it, or whatever, and then they hear, or sorry, Akamian sense. They don't hear the drums. Akamian senses Corey moving beneath them, or whatever, right? And they realize that there's some kind of band of probably Shrank, chasing, like trying to get ahead of them, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. And so then they start booking it. There's a moment. I think Baker cuts it off, so it's not like it is totally like a Tolkien-esque thing, or whatever. But I believe they're called like the high halls of something, right? Like, and I think
The
he
high
does,
halls.
and then it gets cut off because then there's like, like they, I guess I forget if they just feel the Corey like presence or whatever. But anyways, basically like then it kicks off and they realize they're like a group of fucking 12 or 15 or whatever, like backed into a corner in this giant, like, like just the same kind of thing with Maury or whatever, right? And except this time it's Shrank and Bashrag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then,
it. That's the first time we've seen a bash rag, right?
I think that's the first time we've seen a Bashrag. I
I
gotta
want,
think now.
I think so. I want to say that's
I
the,
know. I believe we've like seen them in the dreams through
yeah.
Prince of Nothing or whatever. But yeah.
Because you
So,
start getting
anyways,
hit with those descriptions and you're like, these are fucking nightmare fuel, dude.
right. That very well might be one of the first times that, besides the dreams, that we've seen the Bashrag in person. Uh, and then even I think one of the ones that Cleric takes out in that first kind of confrontation, before they just book it and like lose him, was he takes a Bashrag with a Corey down or whatever, right? Like he goes like fly with a sword and just like whatever happens, that he doesn't get wiped by the Corey or whatever, right? But
Right.
yeah.
And that scene. So this is one thing, and it is like the scene is amazing. Shit is going fucking full throttle, high octane. To see Cleric busting out magic alongside a commune, like holy fuck. And then like you said, like you got Shrank that are in Bashrag coming in like relentless numbers, and they have Coric. So this is massively like a big threat to the two people that are the like biggest help for the party, right? So I love the imagery. The imagery is fucking amazing. And like like the Corey like near misses that leave like salted scabs on like Cleric's fucking scalp or whatever. This shit. So
well, this is also when Akamian kind of gets nicked with one or some shit, right?
yes,
And then they
yes.
have to like carry him. Yeah.
I love that shit, but it also fucked with me a little bit because this one little part in Prince of Nothing where they're talking about the Corey and they're talking about non-men specifically, and because they're so old and so magical that fucking like just being within like a fucking radius of these things, they could die. So when Cleric's like dodging ones by like an inch, it was like, well, shouldn't it be smoking his ass? But hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Like, let's enjoy it for what it is.
I do wonder about that one too. I don't want to like fixate on that, but that is another lore question that
that was just the one thing that popped up in my
Yeah.
head while reading it, being like, well, wait a minute, wouldn't they be fucking like, because let's face, we don't really know yet, but Cleric certainly would be thrown in the old as fuck category. And very
would.
powerful magically.
Yeah.
So but either way,
anyways,
an amazing scene.
they take a game in. Sorry, they take a game in. They run with them. And I did want to hear your thoughts on like, so basically until Cleric kind of comes, I guess they're seeing lava or whatever it is, right? And this is where the captain's like, this isn't hell, I remember, but they're carrying the wizard. And I remember at some point Akamian comes like back to consciousness or whatever, and he I don't know, hears like Pakwas or someone saying like, if you don't wake the wizard, like we're fucked, because they've lost Cleric behind them or whatever, right? Like, and he's like, you need to get him up, like blah blah. And this is also where, and I think it's an important part to mention, this is also where we Neil or Akamian has the dream about previous Selmomas or whatever, talking to Nai Coyote or whatever, his son, and he's got this like, because to me it was really interesting that Selmomas, like the ancient Cuneric king or whatever, he was actually the one who created Ishwal in case shit goes south or whatever with his ordeal or whatever, and he's the one who like gives it to Seswatha, and then the inscription says doom should you find me broken or whatever, or find it broken. And then when they, later on when we get to a White Lock Warrior or whatever, they do indeed find it broken or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you caught this or not, but Night Coyote is I don't know, he's young in the dream or whatever, and he's talking to Seswatha. And this is one of two things I wanted to ask you about, because there's another moment like this later. But essentially, Night Coyote says to Akamian, "Who is Mamara?" He tells Seswatha that he heard him say Mamara's name in Seswatha's sleep, right? But then Akamian is dreaming this shit about, and what kind of like weird crossover?
Yeah,
yeah.
Crossover shit. It is weird.
Well, the other one is when he's like looking around, dreaming about the Library of Soglish, the Raku we're finding out, and he's like, "Where is Seswatha?" Right? Like, why isn't Seswatha acting or something? Right?
Yeah, his dream and shit is definitely going like haywire, right? Yeah. It's much. We already knew, like, because he talks about how he started to experience the mundane. Like aspects.
Yeah, he stubs Seswatha's toe or whatever.
Yeah, but at this point, it feels like it's not just mundane. It's like something else is going on as well. Like the trip into Solages really like fucking energizes this like a different part of his dreaming, and it is fucking weird. And like I still, even after reading this fucker twice, have issue like just not fully understand some of the metaphysics, and I just kind of come up with crazy ideas and shit,
I think I don't even know that I've got it figured out, man, but I mean, obviously, yeah,
I have I have a theory that kind of built between finishing the series and before I reread it again. And in a way, I think I still carry that theory. It's weird. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to reread or talk some more, with other people. And like sometimes that helps change things. But I do, man, it's weird because determinism is a big part of these, right? At least it was in fucking Prince of Nothing. And if it is a deterministic universe, like all this shit was like so supposed to fucking happen. But there's also this thing, and I feel like history repeating itself is also kind of a theme here. And man, I got lost in all these crazy theories of time loops and shit like that. And I just I still to this day, like I'm kind of under this like assumption, or like where I land with it all is that these guys are forever stuck in this apocalypse. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is the second apocalypse, but guess what happens after that? The third apocalypse, and then the fourth, and then the fifth. This world will always be like working itself towards an apocalypse. And they're always doomed to because of a lot of things that they're just like, because of history and the way that it's forgotten or, rewritten and all this shit. So the mistakes
one cannot raise walls against what
has been forgotten. That first line in that book has always haunted me, and it's really like made me think of like put that kind of on everything I've witnessed throughout the journey. But yeah, I mean, that's the one thing, like the you have the outside and everything, and it's like I don't really necessarily know what the outside looks like, you know what I mean? And so like we're
obviously going to be having more conversations like this, because I don't know where I land on a lot of this stuff. And I know that every time I meet a new reader or talk to a new reader or whatever, they, as you said, they like spin something that I had in my head one way for a long time, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, that's actually like more, fits better or whatever, right?
It's a great series to like discuss because there's just so much. Christos, I know you got to know Christos on the, he's like, he's great to talk about this stuff with. And I always butcher it, but he talks about like, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but it's like Baker's stuff is like an artistic cage that keeps you trapped. You know what I mean? And that's a total butchery of how he said it, but
Right.
It really is, man. It's this crazy thing that, like, because of Baker and the way that he's written it, and he's given you enough, but he hasn't given you everything. So there's so much room for speculation.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, he also, I know that's something like this is more like AP conversation or whatever, but I know that Baker kind of what, he likes to play with the ambiguity, right? So it and it's like I don't want to bring quantum physics into the conversation because I do want to get to the end. There's another two things I want to talk to about.
yeah, yeah, I know.
The
Look at us
Ever-Judging
go.
Eye.
Look at us
I
go.
know, yeah. But like no, in quantum physics, it's like indeterminacy and stuff versus determinacy, like the double slit experiment or whatever. But I know that Baker was playing a lot with the fact of I want kind of people like it's almost like a random generating meaning machine or something, right? Because you can easily in so many different parts of ambiguity across the series. Like yes, he does collapse possibilities as you like read through and stuff, but there's also just so many different ways to interpret this, that, or the other thing, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, it almost it is really like what you as a reader and what you bring to this story in particular, but all books obviously as well. That's why I mentioned AP or whatever. But what you bring to it is almost as important as what's written, right? And
Sure.
then the way Baker wanted to play
Especially
with
with
that
something
was,
like this. Yeah.
well, that's the thing, right? Is because like everyone is gonna, you go left, I go right. Some people, dive. Something I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's so
Especially in this one.
introspective. It's so introspective. So you're really hitting it on that fuck, the nail with the fuck or on the head there, because everyone brings whatever, that's inside them. And when it's introspective, it brings that insight out. So, and that's why it's so important to discuss these books. I think, you know what I mean? As far as fantasy, they have so many avenues to explore. It's insane. Fucking 1,000 avenues, if you will.
Okay. I got one more from Syllogus, which is obviously the big one, and then I do have to revisit the ordeal one more time here, or whatever. But so Syllogus, and I know it's another question of ambiguity as we're talking about and stuff, but what is your opinion of the White in the Mountain?
Oh, man, I don't know. Like,
and Mamara seeing like through the Chora and stuff.
Yeah, like okay, so that, and I kind of felt like that was something that we were going to explore, and then I felt like it kind of I don't know, didn't get explored too, but it's so like there's that like the eye, right? And then she's like she lays her eye like on the trinket and
just
like
keeps looking and just keeps looking,
and she's like, it is a tear of God. So like, and I might be super retarded because, and that's very possible, everybody. but I was just like, wait a minute, what? Like, that's what they call them, tears of God,
right?
But I mean, that could easily just be a nickname.
Well, and that's what you talked about it with the Prince of Nothing and the history and stuff,
right?
Wherever that name came up from, like I think they were called the Tears of God because they defended against sorcery, right? And they're
right, and then like sorcerers are heathens, so that makes sense.
So but there's that aspect, and then as well, like with Mamara.
But about a god, but what god? That's the, right?
Your guess is as good as mine, man.
Because we're just getting hit with, we haven't known, we know now that the gods are real. They say like the 100 or whatever, so, but who knows how many more really that there are than that.
So just something to put into people's heads, though. It's something I think about a lot. And then you talked about it not being explored. I still think there's something there that we'll come to later, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a couple factors. Like one, Cleric, when they're going past the Wolf Gate at the start of Kilaugus, and Acamian reminisces about the fact that it's a different distortion of like the non-men art. It's an earlier kind of whatever.
Yes.
And Cleric asks like, who's guarding the gates? Like, why is no one guarding the gates, right? And then Mamara, when she's like banishing the White or whatever she's doing, and she's holding up, she's got the judging eye on, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, and then she's got the Takore, and then the White, like, came in later on, obviously, as we get to White Left Warrior, talks about the fact of, that shouldn't have been possible. Like, what you did, like, banishing, like, a fucking, this, I don't know, like, haunting, banishing this haunting, right? And they're all up there going, like, I just do wonder, and me and a member of well, going back in time, someone I've talked to for many years, Cyborg, him and I talked about this a long time ago, but the idea that Topoi before the No God might have happened because of like non-men enslavement of stuff of the Amwama and whatnot, just before the Inquiry and stuff, and so that it literally the Aporos and certainly if the Judging Eye existed and stuff, and we don't know. I don't think we have any evidence that that occurred with non-women or whatever. But the idea of that being able to like who guards the gates, I think Cleric asking like hell is like who's guarding the gates against hell, right? Like yeah, and obviously in the Dead Mansion it's just all Topoi there, right? Like,
yeah, and as we proceed throughout the story, especially in the last book, with we're not, but you kind of get to this point. You could look back and you go like, well, fuck, like that who's guarding the gates of hell, like. Well, Jesus Christ, because this very place could be stretched so thin, it literally is just a fucking open doorway to the outside.
Yeah, yeah, just like a Rhine or a Skeen or something. Yeah, so just
thin,
like, yeah.
Because, like we know later, a Jokely tells some somebody
that we'll get there. Yeah. I feel like with our conversation here, we should probably leave it, finishing up this and stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It'll take us forever to cover this, but that's good.
Well, I know, but even in our first one, we kind of like tried to get right through the Prince of Nothing because you were really excited and stuff.
Yes, dude, I mean, how can you not be? After reading those, I mean, if they hit you in any way that's like that, you like them, it's hard not to just be chomping at the fucking bit to talk about it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I know this feeling well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. We'll leave that in listeners' minds and the viewers' minds.
I will say this: the first time I read through that part too, because like you have that part where Paquis and Akamian are both like passed out, so they're talking. Like that's like how you get the spirit's like voice or whatever, and it's like doubled. The first time I read that, I did not know what the fuck was going on, dude. I was so lost. I was like, what the fuck? Second time I went through it, it was like, this makes so much fucking, well, you know what I mean? As much sense as it can. Like, I'm like, some things that
I don't think I thought anything about that part in specific. I do know that I was like, as soon as you see like kind of the shadow or whatever kind of embrace Cleric or whatever it is, I'm like, oh, this is possession. Like, this is a haunting, right? Like, like now, who knows what the fuck this thing is? But fucking run, man. Like,
oh shit. Yeah.
Okay. You can't end. I mean, there's another point actually after this, but you can't end a discussion about Judging Eye without, the space spit from Proprisian or whatever, Proporcian, a Sorwheel slave, right?
Oh like, yeah, Prosperian. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like we're giving him a shield, which we later realized that it pretty much. I don't know. This is another question too, and the only thing I can think of is it has to be because he's Skilvendi or half Skilvendi. Actually, yeah, half Skilvendi, I guess, whatever. Why is Moangus the only one who can we realize this later or whatever, but this weirds me out. So he gets like the mask of Yatwer or whatever you want to call it. But we learn later on that Moangus the Younger can see through it.
Yeah, can see through it. Yeah. The only thing I can chop that up to that my sub, and I think you kind of just said it, really is just the fact that Moangus is not a true Nasarember. And so I think that specific, like Yatwer is protecting Sorwheel from the Nasarembers. So, like fuck it, probably has to do more with blood than title. You know what I mean? So, and you know what I mean? There's more, metaphysics and fucking lore shit, for you, but. I do really like that that's how it plays out. I love that Moangus is the one that can see through the shit, and he's basically just kind of like, yeah, whatever, you're half crazy, brother. Like, just chill. We're a Nasarembers. We can see the fucking thousandfold fire. Like, oh, it's so good. It's so good how it goes down. I really love Sorwheel's character. Like for me, like Sorwheel felt like Baker had put him there for all of us. Like he's kind of that character, like you're Sorwheel almost, like it's at least in the beginning, because it really helps you understand a lot of shit that's going on with the ordeal that's already been established. And so Sorwheel's kind of like that, fish out of water. And that's how we get to learn so much more about really what the fuck is going on, you know, amongst the fucking princes and everything, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Go on.
I don't know though. Like, I'm trying to remember if it's within the Judging Eye or if it happens early in on the White Luck Warrior, where we're really getting to see that spit, you know, mask magic kind of in play.
I think it's right at the end. Well, yeah, it basically like um I think it's between the books, right? So that moment happens where he like digs up the dirt in the tent and whatever, and like spit put on your face, whatever, and Soriel can understand enough of the Sheik, and then he like again in Securpus, I think he mentions the fact that unlike the three C's, they never gave up on the old like Kuniat worship, right? Same thing with Zuem, right? Like, well, Zuem has a different take on it, right? Or Zeum or whatever, but yeah. So he understands when Perspirion is making the hole or the face in the ground, he understands that that's like, oh shit, Yatwer's got me, right? Like Yatwer's gonna help me here, and you know, we're not all lost. The gods haven't left us against the fucking Dunyan or whatever, right? Or the, you know, the Incore or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this is the whole question throughout the Aspect Emperor is, you know, and as Soriel and his dad, like Harweel mentioned this right at the beginning, like, are the Dunyan, because at this point, people kind of don't believe that the consul's even real anymore, right? So that, you know, obviously Kellis is kind of like whipped the three C's into be like, no, we're going to fucking Golgotha, right? And people were like, what do you mean you're taking like all of the, you know, the men of the three C's to Golgotha, right? And that's what Zeum, they're all Faniel, Soriel, they're all trying to figure out whether or not Kellis himself, as you know, we find out later with Malawebe or whatever, like, is Kellis himself a Chifrang? Or is he something else? Is he, you know, we'll get to there in the next couple, you know, talks. But anyways, for Soriel to realize that, like, oh, the gods haven't abandoned us, right? Yeah. Which is, again, it kind of bookends, like we're talking about how you realize from Satman Nanaferi and then so on and so forth that the gods are real in a way that you didn't necessarily pick up on in Prince of Nothing, depending on, you know, what you bring to the table, whatever. But once you see that from Soriel, as you said, like him, it's almost like the same kind of thing I was talking about with Kellis being like this vehicle that sucks you in terms of thinking that it's not like that. Then Aspect Emperor happens and Soriel sucks us into like realizing like, no, that's all real too. Yeah.
Which is crazy. I wonder what the gods like, how they felt about Inri Sejanus.
Oh, that's funny. Funny that you asked that, because so Inri Sejanus comes around, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after the No God's death. And I don't think this is settled, and I don't know how anyone would settle it. So if someone has the answer, please let me know, or what they think is the answer. But there's been a lot of speculation over the years, not mine necessarily, because I didn't really think about it, but certainly people who have dove really deep into the lore and stuff, whether he was, you know, an actual kind of, I don't know, what, like an actual prophet, essentially, like the anti-Kellis or something.
Yeah, the fucking anti-prophet or whatever.
Hold on, though, I got one for you, though, and this is the question. Or is he some kind of like another Hail Mary by the consul to fuck with, like, because the Tusk, again, the Inquiry are the ones who wrote like inscribed the Tusk. And Baker set out a text that there was only one edition made, which was, you know, punish the non-men and, you know, come over across the mountain, break the gates, you know, get the non-men or whatever. But after that, how do I want to word this exactly? I got to think here for a second, Red. Just give me a hurt.
No, you're good, brother.
Yeah. What was I just saying?
Well, I'm just thinking. There. Yeah, we were.
Oh yeah, just whether Inri Sejanus is like some kind of like
consul, a prophet or a consul,
because he's pro Tusk, right? He's pro Tusk, and being pro Tusk, as much as those are the canon, like the catalog of all the ancient Kuniat beliefs, which the 5 tribes had before, you know, they break into Irwa and you know, come after the non-men at the behest of what people assume, I think, is one of the Inquiry acting like a god or something, right? Like, whether that's Husielt or, you know, something else, it doesn't really matter. But the idea of you know, his birth, like his rise to, you know, in recent, like he, essentially Baker's even playing with the name, right, of Jesus's like plaque or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And all through Prince of Nothing, Kellis is like, I'm inheriting my brother's whatever, right? And there's that added. So as a reader, for sure, that's a question that sticks with me still. Is where did Enrique Genius come from? Is he actually like of the gods or of some kind of other machination or something, right? Like, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I'm not surprised at people drawing conclusions to the consult or whatever, just because of how much investment they had in the Holy War, and how you're going to get that without the Men of the Tusk. You need like a massive fucking religion that's like going to be at odds with another part of the bigger part of the world, so that you
Well,
can get all
that's
this
why I
debt.
always liked Moangus the Elder's kind of story behind the story. When him and Kellis talk in Thousandfold Thought and stuff, is that let's say, I mean, sometimes I really do just read Baker and think that there is no obfuscation. He's actually just telling us straight up what's going on, right? So like Kellis could be right that Moangus remains Dunyan still, but that doesn't mean that Moangus wasn't actually planning, because he talks about like the two religions coming together and how you need like something that binds, as you said, the Holy War, and then you have the Unification Wars. But eventually, it's to the Great Ordeal, right? Like you have to have those people, and in Kellis's case, I don't know what his play is exactly, but you might have to have them damned or something, right? Like they might have to do that just to get the job done, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oh man, I know.
Where we can go on forever, sir. I feel like
I'll
we should
tell you
find a
the
spot
thing
to
is
wrap up
too,
here.
is like after the end of Prince of Nothing, it's like for me, like I was, it's funny because I have reviews out there, so I was able to like connect with all these Baker fans, and there's a lot of them that, because me personally, I was like, Jesus Christ, like I understand that Kellis is not a good guy, or not the good guy, but like it's hard for me to really peg him as the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's an unconventional good guy. Who knows?
I think it's still.
But there's so many
up
people
to
that are like,
debate.
how are you blind? Like this guy's fucking horrible. He's, and then I know this by the end of Prince of Nothing, I'm like, okay, yeah, he's a fucking shitbag. But then we get into The Judging Eye, and he's taught like even like that conversation he has with Esmondet, where like he's talking about how like the world is not gonna fucking understand like his actions, like what I mean, like they will be like looked at as evil for saving the world, because the world is conditioned in a very specific way. Like they can't do what needs to be done like without looking at it like, oh, that's fucking evil, so because the Dunyan are so fucking logical, they can make you very confused. You're like, well, fuck, I understand that. Like, I know this dude's a fucker, but what the hell? Maybe he is right. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to save the world. He's going to fucking go Godroth to fucking, we know for a fact that Koroi are fucked up. You know what I mean?
I don't want to get too far ahead there, obviously, but like Mamara sees the arc with the Judging Eye, and it is just like dripping damnation, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So God, that's like that's Scott.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite book now, is the fucking Unholy Console.
Unholy Console, yeah. But I mean, you have to take the whole journey for it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say this about
the
the Judging Eye, even though like where I rank it, when the first time I read through, as soon as I got to the White Luck Warrior, I don't even think I was a paragraph in where the Judging Eye became a better book, because immediately I realized what it had all set up, and that they're like, like when our skin eaters are all fucking like Sarl's gone nuts. And I'm like, dude, this is so good. There's like actual fucking consequences that what happened. You know what I mean? This wasn't just like, woo, this was scary, guys. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Like, no,
I want to drop in some teasers, just like we did there about Mamara and stuff, but and then teasers for Aspect Emperor, obviously. But like, as you said, you start reading like, for me, Judging Eye is like Darkness. White Luck Warrior and the Great Ordeal, to me, anyways, for my personal reading, is just the Warrior Prophet, like split in two. It's like two halves of the Warrior Prophet, and then the Unholy Console is obviously Thousandfold Thought of the Aspect Emperor. But when you get to White Luck Warrior, you're off to the races. And one of the other teasers that we're going to talk about later is just the absolute like balls that Baker has to put an extended like drug metaphor into a whole, right? Because like Sorrow's crazy. At the end of Judging Eye, they see Quirk, like he's survived and he's walking down the mountain, like under the mountain, like nothing's happening, whatever. They're through Kilologist, but they still have like, you know, the entire mop to go through to get to fucking Sogglish, whatever, right? Yeah. And yeah, Sorrow's crazy, you know. I believe Campus is dead at this point. Doesn't he die?
Campus dies in Solages.
Yeah. And then and then we'll talk about that later. But just the idea of like, I don't think I've ever I know I've read versions of this in science fiction and fantasy before, certainly going all the way back to like Aldous Huxley and Soma and stuff, whatever. But I don't think I've ever read, a drug metaphor like that in a fantasy book. Like what, you know, because White Luck Warrior just immediately you're off to the fucking races now, right? Yeah,
dude. That's why, like, when I read the White Luck Warrior, I was like, yes, like I like. Dude, I knew at that point, because I was, like I said, like after reading The Judging Eye, it was so different for me, like a different, like, you know, from the what had come before. But then when I read The White Luck Warrior, like you said, you're off to the races. But I do feel also that like that's where Baker begins to blend like his new shit with the old stuff. You know what I mean? Like it starts to get pretty fucking philosophical and introspective, especially with the conversations between him and Proyas.
I love how you say it gets more introspective. Like the first fucking 4 books weren't hard.
I know, and that's insane, right? That's the thing, is it never stops, and that's what's so impressive. Okay, like I sometimes I like as a booktuber, you know what I mean, and sometimes like people think that you're just fucking chucking hyperbole at them, you know, like you're just lying through your fucking teeth. But the fact is like it sounds so douchey, but Baker really transcended dark fantasy, grimdark like adult fantasy. Like by reading his books, I was like, this guy's something else. It's that fucking good. It's that fucking good. And you know, some people are just like, yeah, Mark, I know, whatever. Like, dude, cast the number sticks, all right. See for yourself.
Okay, well, we've described you know, the Benjuka plate as it starts off in Judging Eye. I feel like, except for that middle part there where I had to go handle the kids, I feel like we've got a little episode here, right?
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we're always like we plan, but then, you know, the universe laughs because it's like, oh, you silly bastards, you thought you were going to talk about all 4 fucking books. Nice try.
I mean, it wasn't really my intention off the hop, and I wanted to like do something different than we did last time because we kind of like faltered right at the end because, you know, time ran out. But
I mean, it is. Yeah, we're both family guys. You know, we got shit going on. It's not exactly easy to get this amount of time to just talk. You know, it's nice.
Yes. Okay. So let's. I know that we started off with one intention, but we've actually found our pace here, whatever, and we'll plan for more just for the audience and everyone. But any last thoughts on Judging Eye before we move on and bookend this?
I'm trying to think of anything.
We went over the Yatwarians, right? We went over.
I will say this though too, like one of the things the first time I read through that, one of the things I guess that caught me off guard at first was the Nair thing. Like Nair wasn't in it, and then like I do believe that somebody it is mentioned that he's dead. I think even Akami is like, you know, a dead maniac or whatever, you know. And we obviously, as the reader, we saw, you know, the last time we saw Nair, he was very much alive.
It was just fade to black. So
it was one of those things. It was like, you know, I was so attached to that character, and that might have been part of the reason why it was hard for me with The Judging Eye, was because it's like you just spent all that goddamn time with the crew, and it's not that they're not here, but it's almost a passing of the torch in a lot of areas. You know what I mean? We're dealing with the kids, we're dealing with Sorwheel, you know, like even in Akamian's thread, we're really dealing with Maimara, you know. So it took a little bit to kind of like let that shit kind of sink in, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even know where I was going with that.
No, that's okay. Let's end this for the audience so you have a clean recording and stuff.
Last time I fucked up the audio horribly bad. So this way, either way, even if I go to edit it and it sounds horrible, I'm gonna post it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, have you been watching the levels and stuff? It seems all good.
It's like so far everything looks legit. So I think we're gonna be
All
good.
right. All right.
Right on.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me again. I would
Yeah,
always love talking to you,
absolutely,
man.
brother. I love talking Baker with you. It's always a fucking pleasure. You are a fucking wealth of knowledge. You know what I mean when it comes to this shit. That
I'm a unique cross section or something, or crux or
like
something.
you're a
Back
guy,
there.
like you know what I mean. Like when I get a certain I'm like, man, I wonder what Madness is thinking about this.
Well, you're
You know what I
always
mean?
welcome to reach out to me and ask me
Yeah.
a question. I'll do my
Yeah,
best
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess before we go though, I'm gonna put you in a corner real quick because people do it to me all the time. Where I where are you lie with the possibility of seeing more books like the No God? Do you think
Yeah.
you're gonna get it?
I,
And it's
I
okay to say
honestly,
no.
well, no, it is like, I, yeah. I mean, all this is public knowledge. There's breadcrumbs across the way or whatever. But so if you look enough into my name on the internet or whatever, you'll figure this out in small bits or whatever. But I've kind of been intimately involved with the community going back, 10 years plus now, whatever. And again, it is just so exciting to see people discover the books now, like
God.
yourself, whether the Baker Twitch Bros, they were doing their chapter readings every week and stuff, like Young Salmon or whatever. Yeah. The just like I think you've had now, I don't know, like just it's just exploding in a way that like wasn't a thing 10 years ago,
It
which
was
is really
pretty
interesting, right?
yeah, it was pretty quiet when I picked up
Yeah, right.
darkness,
But so
like
so seeing the new generation unfold, or whatever, you can go back and see all the pieces about how my particular journey, like with him, and then also with the books themselves and them coming out. So I never speculate on anything that I know about or whatever. But so I can say two things, and this is public record anyways. But I'll just put it into whatever. So one, I very much don't know, like I get to talk to him every once in a while or speak to him every once in a while, but I have no idea where he's at. And his brother put out that
yeah.
kind of little blog a little while ago, whatever. And I've been public about this for a long time, whatever, because I wanted to make it clear to anyone who knew me well that I would never speculate on anything I know. But he has like mapped out, like I don't know, a couple handfuls of ways, like directions or whatever. And back to your point about missing a year from Thousand Volt Thought, and then like the buildup of Aspect Emperor and the Passion of the Torch was almost the perfect way to put it. I do wonder, you know, I mean, again, I know what he's going for, and he wants to make some narrative. He has to make some structural decisions that I think he's been sitting on for a long time, because there's essentially technically two ways to kind of go, not plot wise, because there's like fucking, I don't know, 9 to 15 little plot threads and stuff, whatever, right? But like he's so yeah, so I mean he's told me, a good portion of what, not the ending, or if there is even an ending, but he's told me, like, so it's that I always get frustrated when people online talk like, oh, he doesn't have any ideas, he's blah blah.
Yeah,
Like
and this is kind of
he,
why I wanted to put you in the corner because
yeah,
it
it's
is
fine.
like it's out there, but I gotta say there's a lot of misinformation out there too.
Okay.
And
Well, coming from
I
coming from
think
one
that
person,
yeah,
well,
you're
go
a
on.
guy that I could tell anyone that's watching this, he's a guy that if he says something, I would take it. Like
Well, madness is on the tin again, right? But yeah.
yeah,
No, I will say, so having sat across from him, which is itself quite an experience, because he'll sit there and tell you, like, what's going on, neurologically and stuff, and with our brains, like we're the lesser, like, to have Baker himself sit across being 1-to-1 over tea or whatever and be like, yeah, like we're not even like the conscious conversation here. Yeah, and you get what I'm saying, right? There's the greater red and there's the greater madness and then the lessers, and we're
yeah,
the lessers, obviously, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, yeah, he's to put me on the spot, whatever. Yeah, it's fine. It's public record out there, whatever. But he's got a story to tell. However, there's life first off and foremost, but also the fact of yeah, he's got choices to make. But I really dislike when I see online that people just think that he doesn't have anything else, and like there wasn't like things that he's working towards, whatever.
Right.
And just off the top of my head, I could bang out like 9 different things that like he already has like firmly planned, and like directions that the story's going and stuff, right? So it really just depends for people who are coming to the series now, like new generation, and then people who have been thinking about it for 15 plus years, whatever, going all the way back to the original 3Cs forum, which does still exist in a zombie version. It's read only or whatever, but it does still exist out there where you can like click through threads, and because Baker was himself active on the original forum before I started the second apocalypse. So yeah, it's wildly frustrating for people. Like, I understand that readers or many readers, and AP's talked about this too, have a sense of like entitlement, or like, Neil Gaiman thing, does the author owe me something or whatever. I don't know what choice Baker's going to make about writing anymore. I do know that there are like very firm kind of pathways that he's got in his head. It's just more a decision that he's got to make when he's going to make it, or when he's ready. It's just a more decision about how to write them, right?
Yeah.
Like even in the Aspect Emperor, when he first started writing that, and when I got to be when I was privileged enough to actually like help kind of edit and be added to his draft readers or beta readers, whatever. He almost wanted to like really like there's an interview actually going back with Pat's Fantasy Hot List about Judgy and I, but he essentially started writing Aspect Emperor, and then he realized that he was creating too many new characters and too many new plots and stuff. So apparently the way he writes it in the article, I'd have to go back and reread it, whatever, but the way that he writes it is that he literally had like 8 new characters and then cut out 6 of them, and then we were left with Mamara and Storewheel essentially, and then other versions and stuff, right? But he comments on the fact that he almost got lost, kind of where Martin's lost right now, right? Where like he proliferated too many new characters, too many new plot lines. So like Baker, after the Judging Eye, when he like scrapped half that stuff, whatever, he really dialed in. And so with the No God, I would expect that he is gonna whatever kind of crew or versions or different places, whatever. And like if you read these 4 books, and we'll get through as we'll talk, and we'll talk more about as we get closer to the Unholy Console, whatever. But as you read these books, and you pay attention to the structure of the Prince of Nothing, and then the Aspect Emperor, and how you talk about like Nair passing the torch and stuff, some of the plot lines should be almost obvious to anyone reading them, right? In terms of like, like, and questions about who's alive, who's dead, whatever else. Like he goes, oh man. So how because if this is going to be on record, I might as well try and say it as concisely as I had. So Prince of Nothing, localized, right? Aspect Emperor, localized, right? And I'm not talking Iena or any of that shit or whatever, but just like the different ways that he can tell like just an even crazier story, right? And it's just that concentric circle is just getting bigger, man. Like
right. Well, like we were talking, like fucking this very well could be getting chunks about the outside. You know what I mean? Like when I finished the fucking series, because we'll obviously talk about those books, but
at least 3 more episodes. You know what I mean? But maybe even a bonus one.
The last goddamn sentence or 2 that you read, and then you flip the page and you realize you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was kind of like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? But it's funny because the second time I read it, I'm laughing my ass off, going, Baker, you fucking madman. But so when I finished it the first time, I guess the reason why I was so like it took a bite out of me at first, but I got really comfortable because I was like, okay, there's gonna be more. There's more, And then the second read through, by the time I get to the end, I'm like, I'm actually okay with this being it. I'm totally okay. Like I said too, and that kind of rolls into my theory of like, if we do more books, it's literally the same story. You know what I mean? That's one way to look at it. You know what I mean? One could say maybe certain things happen differently, you know what I mean? And caused a change, a shift. Who knows?
Well, I will say one thing that's really clear in my mind there, so the boating, right? the idea, and we're gonna like, you know, again, this is obviously now going to be a series in a couple parts with me and Red here or whatever, but and we just covered the Judge and I. We'll work our way through and talk and expand or whatever, but the voting is like everyone can feel the no God now, right? So it's like the three C's. They don't know if Kellis succeeded or failed or whatever, but they know that he was right. You end the Aspect Emperor knowing that the Aspect Emperor spoke true. We still don't know his intentions. We still don't know the fate of the ordeal, right? Like the regular three C's people are like, fuck, man, like the no God is actually fucking out there. Like all those myths are true, and the whole world knows now. Like all of Europe knows now. Like the no God is here, and he's walking, or it's walking, whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
Like so that just even that to like think about the future of the story and stuff. Like if right now we just all felt like this fucking like our soul being sucked towards some like or whatever, like our attention, like you can always feel, right? Like Seswaka used to stand on the ramparts of Soglish and look north, right? And you're like, well, the no God's over there, like fuck, he's getting closer, right? Like so that I mean it's yes, there is that those last couple lines, which I mean we'll talk about in future episodes, but then you got to remember too that everyone can feel the no God now. Like the voting is real. Everyone can feel it. And then, you know, at that point, I assume every person, like man, woman, or child's kind of got to make a choice in terms of like, cause you know, the great ordeal just left. Or not just left, but like, you know, like we don't know what's fucking happened now. We just know that the Aspect Emperor spoke true.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those like fucking resist or lay down and fucking take your fucking ticket straight to the fucking.
Oh my goodness! Right? Yeah. Well, even then, we don't even know what happens there because is it like a plug? Is it like a plug to the like to the outside? Does it actually cut the gods off? You know, like what does that mean for fucking the Judging Eye or like any or like Yatwer and whatever? Like what does it actually mean, right? Like
right.
And jokingly, yeah, I love how we're kind of jumping, but we'll go through White Luck Warrior and TGO and whatever else, but we'll get there. But you know, all in that mad last couple of chapters there, or whatever. You know, a Jokley kind of gets fucking screwed, right? Like I don't know what his plan was exactly.
Yeah, neither do I.
Right, yeah, but he and then there's a lot of argument online that he is the one who like comes back and tries again with Nair.
Yeah,
and he's
because
like
we
looking
see that
for Kellis and being like, "What the fuck?" Like,
yeah, that was a nut. That was whole deal is so fucking nuts.
Yeah, we'll get there, but we'll get there. Anyways, no, you put me on the spot anytime, and I'll just
yeah. Well, I mean, to me, like
you
know, you're you know one of the more official fucking fans of the series. Like you just say, maybe you're not talking to Baker every fucking day, but you know, I've never spoken to the man once. So
yeah. Well, I can say I am acknowledged in the Great Ordeal and the Unholy Consult. And probably one of the greatest compliments in my life from Baker was him repeating my name in the Great Ordeal comments or acknowledgements. I forget, he calls me the intimitable or something. It's like it's something that can't be duplicated or intimated or whatever. Again, man, he's given me two of the greatest compliments of my life. So
yeah, that's
the one in Neuropath. Well, the one in Neuropath, it's my favorite. It's the only book I've ever asked for him to sign with like a personalized sign. Otherwise, I just get his like signatures on the book server. But the one I asked for personalized was Neuropath, and this guy, man, you know, fucked me up for another 12 years or whatever. But like, he writes Mike, like quote unquote, whatever, like Mike dash or colon or whatever, something the singer sings through.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And that's just, you know, fucked me up for about 12 years. So yeah, I can leave it on that one for sure.
Damn, that's cool. That's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
A little jealous.
Hey, well, again, it's so weird though, but you think about it too, and this is why it messes me up. So like with Tolkien, you have I forget what he calls it, but there's like the world song or something, right? Like
yeah, or like the song that the Ainur like basically.
Sure, yeah, and then with Baker, sorcerers sing, right? Like he actually wanted to call Thousandfold Thought When Sorcerers Sing. That was his original title for the Thousandfold Thought, or at least his working title or whatever. Yeah, so it I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I hear the music or not, or whatever, but we're definitely singing, buddy. We're definitely singing to each other.
Dude, you know what? I just realized there's this one thing before we go, because when I first read these books, the magic that's on display, it's like a lot of it, it's like geometries and like fucking undescribable
Metaphors, analogies.
abstractions
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
For whatever reason, I feel like a total idiot because the first time I read it, I kind of just like took geometry and just kind of like
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I'm like, okay, so it's like Doctor Strange shit, right? Like those like perfect fucking, everything's concentric and shit. But then I read it again and I'm like, this shit's telling me it's abstract and just crazy. So I'm like, it wouldn't look like Doctor Strange magic. It would look like DMT trips coming out of motherfuckers, dude.
I would. Well, again, you got to remember the light shining through their mouths and fucking eyes and shit, right? Like, yeah. I will say something on that. Anyone who wants to look for visual representations of the stuff from the books, there's many great artists out there now, and I find it really interesting that some people are using AI like art generators and stuff to kind of mess with prompts from the books, because there's been some really stellar ones. But going back in the day, like go look at Quint Thane's work. He does a lot of like
Quint's
pencil,
awesome. Quint
and then
is fucking dope.
Somnambulist was the other one. If you can find his art out there somewhere, but
I actually noticed on the fucking Baker deal on Facebook, there's a new reader who's an artist, and he pumped out like a fucking painting of Solages, like the black hole, like the entrance to the black halls or whatever.
It was linked from Reddit, and the guy who talks about that, or the person who talks about that, says that it was half him, half like another AI prompt or whatever, right?
Okay.
And he just kind of like he just made sure that you could pick out like that's cleric, that's the captain, whatever. But other than that, that's apparently half. I mean, I find this stuff fascinating.
That's nuts because that is a dope ass fucking like image or whatever, paint, whatever it is.
There's another one on Reddit too, which is the whirlwind and like the ordeal in front of the river, and just the way that the colors go and stuff. Yeah, it's. I mean, we're a bunch of disparate communities talking about this stuff, and you can get a hold of me pretty much in any one of them if anyone wants to or whatever. But it's this idea of like, what greater series to kind of like put through AI, which is, Baker's been talking about being horrified about what happens with that, and stuff. Like, what better series to like put that art through then and stuff and see what the do, right?
Yeah. This painting was done by an Incoroi fucking.
Well, it involved the technique and then the art, sorcery,
The arc painted this.
Okay. With that, you round this up and let's
right on. Well, cool. I'm super fucking, like I said, brother, I am so fucking glad that we finally got to do this. We got to try our hardest to keep it going.
No. This is great now because I
actually have a schedule. Like I actually have a free time schedule now, so I feel like it's a little bit easier at first to
so work. We'll just just so people know whatever. Like you and I will. I'm doing loads of work right now, but I will make time for this absolutely, because I feel like these conversations might be as important as other conversations I'm having. But let's just aim to keep it like maybe every week, just to keep it frequent or something.
That'd be dope. Yeah, I'm super down for that. I'll have the time, and if anything pops up, it's not a big deal. We'll push it back next week, whatever. You know what I mean?
No, okay. So then just for everyone, Lilac Warriors next.
Yes. Fuck yeah. All right. Yeah. Cool. And do you have anything going on right now? Are you still like I know like the forums and everything, but I mean, are you doing anything like where people can come find you right now, like that you're working on? Or is it just kind of your Discord probably?
Well, no, it's not even it's not my Discord. It was started by my one of my first kind of moderators that I had for the forum, whatever. I'm working on a lot. Anyone who wants to find me online, just search Madness.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And they can kind of find you in my Discord too if they tag you.
Yeah. So, if they tag me in your that would even be the perfect place to start.
So if anybody feels like needs to fucking attack this man through text.
Oh, it doesn't have to be through text. Trust me. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, well, like I said, brother, I really appreciate your time. I fucking love talking about these books with you, and I am looking forward to the next one.
Okay. Well, love you. And strength on the journey. Journey well, sir.
All right, brother. Fuck
All
yeah.
right. I'll talk to you afterwards.
All right, man. Let's see.